also there's drama, and this video isn't necessarily about that drama, though I do have to give context about the drama to get into what I'm actually truly annoyed about. This is your context for the drama. There's a YouTuber on here. A YouTuber on YouTube? What? Named Kallmekris. People were saying that they knew her from her skits on TikTok. I don't think she really fits into one very specific content niche, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. She posted a video a couple days ago on YouTube that was titled, it was like, TikTok smut is gross. It immediately pissed people off because they were just like, fuck off. And for a lot of reasons, right? Like, number one, this is so tired. This is so tired. Like, oh my god, this is the bajillion trillionth YouTuber to come on here and make content about being scandalized by the horrific trendy book talk smut. It's like fork found in kitchen, cloud found in sky, Lovecraftian horror beyond human comprehension found in the bottom of the ocean. So part of the initial frustration was like, oh my god, another one, please. The second reason why people were pissed from the jump before even opening the video is that, like, it's kind of like the timing of it is like kicking someone when they're down. People are very sensitive right now about their book talk. I'm very sensitive right now about my book talk. And then the other thing is that a lot of people hadn't expected this sort of content from her, because I guess she's never talked about book content, or at least doesn't specialize really in talking about book content. So it felt out of character, or just like out of the ordinary, for her to come on here and make a booktube video. It threw off a lot of people. It threw off a lot of people who were like the butt of the joke in her video, who had been following her and supporting her for a while. It had been a couple days of backlash. I think the video went live or like 2 to 3 days ago. After like the initial backlash, because people were really upset with that title. They were like, why are you calling the books we like gross, but then also saying you're not trying to yuck anyone's yum? Calling these books gross sounds like yucking people's yum. Where did that phrase even come from? It's such an ugly phrase. I don't like it. And then she changed the title to something that was like, are these TikTok books crossing the line, or like taking things too far? Which also still bothered people. So then she left it on the final title, Book Talk is Wild. And then we get into the actual content of the video. So the video starts off, like, there's a series of books that she discusses. And to Chris's credit, she does a lot more than a lot of these like trashing on book talk videos do, and that's actually read all of the books that she talks about in their entirety. I laughed. I watched the entire video, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did zone out during a good portion of it, because then she started talking about Penelope Douglas, and I hate Penelope Douglas. She talked about 2 Penelope Douglas books. I did turn my ears off for that one. I did go to another place mentally. But I did laugh, not at any of like her intentional jokes, because I do see like what the appeal for her humor is, but I had to laugh in like near the introduction of this video, because in a series of lists of like book talk smut favorites, right? In a video posted in 2025 that probably is based on content from 2024, the very first book in the lineup of book talk sensation smut was 50 Shades of Grey. And it's not even like, okay, it's not just that like, because 50 Shades of Grey was so mega viral before the existence of book talk. There are so many book talk sensations, book talk favorites, like book talk books that blew up before the existence of book talk, right? Like freaking The Secret History, Shadow and Bone, The Hunger Games, The Selection, the Shatter Me books, Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR. If it has a really big fandom and it goes viral regularly and it's like a staple on a book talker's shelf, it's a book talk book, which I know is like controversial, but I have never in my life seen anyone talk about 50 Shades of Grey on book talk outside of laughing at that terrible, horrible chocolate starfish line, which isn't to say that she's lying or exaggerating. I'm just saying I never saw it. And I mean, I'll be honest, there are a lot of sides to book talk that I never see. There are so many books I've never heard of a day in my life before when I see like any book talk whatever's tables at Barnes and Noble. Like, sure, maybe there's like a really huge really like impactful 50 Shades of Grey fandom on book talk that I just like didn't realize was there, but it was really funny of like these book talk books, and I was expecting the generic, and the generic like is in this. Like I said, there's Penelope Douglas, and then there's Icebreaker, which is actually going to be like my main point of like issues, not 50 Shades of Grey. Anyway, she gets into it. She's talking. She's giving in-depth book reviews and like talking about the synopsis and all of the things. It gets to Icebreaker, and this is really like what my beef with anything is. She's talking about Icebreaker, and she gets into discussing the book cover. Age-old debate, argument about the book cover. She makes a really weird comment, like offhand comment about how like she doesn't understand this recent trend of hockey romances masking as children's books. And then she makes the comparison of Icebreaker to Judy Blume and Charlotte's Web, and she puts the book cover of Charlotte's Web and Icebreaker next to each other to show just like how similar they are. She connects it into like this like all too frequent issue of children getting their hands on Icebreaker and Icebreaker being shelved in children's book sections in libraries and bookstores, which is an issue. Is it necessarily an issue because of the cover? Barely, if I'm being completely honest. Because I'm sorry, I think the responsibility for whether or not children are like accidentally consuming smut and erotica, I think that falls on their parents and also the booksellers. Booksellers in the libraries have these systems, like they should know what demographic, like what age range and genre and everything this belongs to so that they can shelve it properly. Booksellers not stocking things in the correct location is not the fault of the book cover. And parents accidentally buying their kids smut is the fault of the parents. Why aren't you checking what your children are like asking you to buy for them? Respectfully, it is very like disingenuous and a flat out lie to say that Icebreaker looks like it belongs in the middle grade or below shelving. Those don't look like children on the cover. You can absolutely make the argument that they look like teenagers and that they can accidentally be shelved in like YA. They still should be checked by the people shelving it. But like at first glance, yeah, that looks like a young adult book. It looks like a book for teens. It's a book about college students. So like the age is close anyways. They look similar. They don't look as grown as some of the other couples on other Lenny Kaufman book covers. This isn't the fault of Lenny Kaufman. She's illustrating the characters how they look in the book. But people have been like pushing back against this and they're like, well, modern middle grade these days looks exactly like this. Again, no, it doesn't. Middle grade books have middle grade demographic children on the front of them. If you tell me those look like 10-year-olds on a book cover, you're a liar. Or you don't know what a 10-year-old looks like. I'm concerned regardless. And people are still like, you don't see any similarities with the art style. Look, I refuse to believe we still need to keep like having this conversation that just because something is like a cute illustration style, that it automatically means it's for children exclusively. There are so many forms of adult entertainment that feature illustration or cartoon styles that are similar to what you could find on a children's network. That doesn't mean the presence of a cartoon makes it a children's program. An art style is an art style. An art style doesn't automatically communicate the contents of an entire piece of media. I know it's easier to just label things based on looking at it for a second. If you care this much about the children, the children. Won't anyone think of the children? If you care this much about children and what they're consuming, you should care enough to like check what's in there. You should care enough to do a Google. Now, do I wish the more like sexually explicit books would like have better indicators about what type of content it is? Yeah, for like a few reasons regarding like target demographics. I know that there are plenty of adults who are looking for an adult romance that's closed door, meaning fade to black sex scenes, not explicit in nature. Who are really annoyed and frustrated that like these smutty books sometimes look very similar to their non-smutty adult romances. And I know that there are adults who enjoy smut, who are looking for smut, that are also annoyed by these cutesy cartoon covers, because when they're looking for smut, they're not looking for a cute cartoon cover. You can absolutely be annoyed that you don't think the book cover of something fits the vibe or fits like the proper advertising for what's in the book. But there's weird language surrounding children and like the calling it like masking as children's books. Someone actually argued with me about this, that it's intentionally made to look like children's content in order to trick consumers into boosting sales, like tricking kids into wanting to buy it to boost sales. That's so, why would you say that? What is that based on? So many people who are the target demographic for these books really enjoy these covers. Me personally, I'm like neutral on it. I like Lenny Kaufman, who is the illustrator for Icebreaker and like kind of the illustrator for adult romances right now. Her work is everywhere. And honestly, as like kind of oversaturated as it's getting, and I do hate sort of like how all of the book covers turn to like blur into one. I still can't bring myself to be mad that there's a human illustrator who is this employed in the age of AI. Would love some variety, would love some other illustrators getting some love, but I'm glad they're illustrated. I think very comfortably slipping into book banner language is bizarre because unfortunately that is what Chris is doing. It wasn't intentional. She actually talks in the video about how she enjoys some of the books on the list, how she enjoys smut. She is a smut reader. She doesn't have anything against smut. But the section of her video talking about Icebreaker, talking about this trend of adult books masking themselves as children's books, that is dangerous and that is reckless, unfortunately. It does give fuel to the book banners that are saying this, that are saying that like it's this intentional plot to sneak smut into children's books. Like some of these people are arguing. It's not adult or erotic material in children's packaging. It's cute and colorful, which I don't think should be exclusively reserved for children. And I am annoyed that the current state of like adult romances tends to either be cutesy illustrations or like weird slap together Photoshop jobs or flowers. I yearn, I scream from the rooftops for the days of like old school oil painted clinch covers. I get so annoyed in the way that people talk about children and the way that people disregard and also weaponize children like on a whim. You're allowed to think a book cover is ugly or does not advertise its contents correctly or honestly. That's totally fair. That is your right as a consumer. But I think trying to make this current like publishing trend a malicious act or even a result of the publishers failing on their responsibility to take care of other people's children, I think that's like not correct. I don't think that's right. That doesn't sound right. Why in the big trio of publisher, parents, and booksellers are the publishers getting the majority of the flack for any of this? Parents need to be parents, and booksellers need to stock their stuff correctly. Anyways, people are getting on my nerves on threads. Dun dun dun. One day I'm gonna have the strength to leave that place. And today is not that day. And tomorrow's not gonna be that day either. You know what is fun? Freaking Xiaohongshu. I went over just to see what was going on with all the Americans on that app, and now I have absolutely fallen in love with it. If TikTok ends up like being saved, I'm keeping Xiaohongshu. I love it there. It's like Pinterest with no ads, and TikTok, and I'm learning Mandarin. The memes are really good, and I'm really enjoying myself. So we'll see what goes on a week from now.